and the funding that we should have gotten done by the end of September. We just need a stopgap measure to give us a little more time to get the job of Congress done. They refuse to do it because they're playing politics, and real Americans are paying the price for it. But let me introduce Chairman Cole, and he can tell you about some of these discussions that have been going on. Mr. Cole.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Usually when I follow the Speaker, I usually think I should just say what he said and excuse myself right away. But in this case, it is pretty easy. I mean, we've had a pretty decent year in the House Appropriations Committee, all 12 bills out of committee before September 30th. 3 that we are in negotiations on with the Democrats. Those negotiations have gone very well. We're prepared pretty quickly to close once the government's reopened. We could get at least 3 bills done. The President could sign them in. Those things would be immune from a shutdown until the following September 30th. Then we'd pick another group of 3 or 4 bills, and then we would do in cooperation with our Democratic colleagues and start working on that. So the process, honestly, was moving along pretty well, and then we had unrelated demands, obviously related to repealing work the Congress had already done on Medicaid, and then these new discussions on subsidies. And I do want to point out, at least the bill we have right now in front of us doesn't even go till December 31st. I mean, these actions would still, we could do this work and still have time to turn around, as the President and our leadership has pointed out in both chambers, and sit down and talk about these other issues. But it's hard to do much when the negotiations aren't happening simply because the government is shut down. So again, we're prepared to work. I've got very talented counterparts on the Democratic side. They're good negotiators. We've negotiated a lot of labor issue bills together between Patty Murray, Rosa DeLauro, and myself, and obviously Susan Collins is one of the best legislators in the building. So it's not like we were going to have a hard time, I think, finding common ground, but you do have to restore the government for that to happen. Democrats are not likely to move bills while they've got the government shut down, because it suggests that absent that, we would be moving through the process as normal, and frankly, in a much better shape than we've been in recent years. So again, I'm just hopeful that my colleagues in the Senate, and it's worth pointing out, a majority of the Senate's already on our side, a bipartisan majority of 55. So this really does get down to Leader Schumer and the bulk of his caucus, just simply shutting down the government over items unrelated to what we normally do in appropriation. I've mentioned this to both the Speaker and the Leader because they make these decisions, but you know, we should not be handling Medicaid on my committee. We should not be handling the Obamacare subsidies simply because we don't have the expertise or the jurisdiction to do either one of those things. What we can do is move the bills through the process and make sure that every soldier is paid, make sure that every air traffic controller is paid, make sure that the American people don't lose any services. So we're prepared to do that. Frankly, I think my Democratic colleagues are prepared to do that once we resolve this shutdown, and that's quite simply in the hands of Leader Schumer and the bulk of his caucus. When they make the mind that they want the government up and running, believe me, we'll move very quickly, and we'll try to move away quickly from a CR status to passing bills individually or in small groups, and get folks up and working again, and get the government restored and continue that process as we're supposed to do. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I just yield back.
Well, appreciate the work that Chairman Cole and the Appropriations Committee have done months and months ago to get us in a place where we would be ready to have all of the appropriations in a place where you can negotiate those differences. It was Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries who chose to take their toys and go home, all to appease the most radical elements of the far left, because Chuck Schumer is more concerned about his political job than he is about the jobs of millions of American families. American families' lives are at stake here. Whether or not we're going to be able to pay our troops, whether or not people can get on an airplane and go visit a relative or take a vacation, whatever their plans may have been, are being disrupted. Real lives of real people are being disrupted so that Chuck Schumer can show the far left Marxists in his party that he's having some kind of tantrum and fighting Donald Trump, because he's afraid of the far left part of his political base. A lot of people say, what is this really about? And obviously you see Democrats trying to make it about things that have nothing to do with the basic funding of government, the bill that we passed here in this House just a few weeks ago. And in fact, a lot of Democrats are having buyer's remorse, but every one of us has a voting card. And weeks ago, Republicans and Democrats in the House had an opportunity to put this voting card in the machine and tell the American people where they stand on a government shutdown. And 99% of House Republicans voted yes to keep the government open while we negotiate our differences, and 99% of Democrats voted no to shut the government down. Some of them are having buyer's remorse, and I don't blame them. They're now realizing the dire consequences that their no vote caused to real families across America. Some of them are begging the Speaker, please bring us back in so they can get another shot at this. You don't get a do-over. They picked the wrong side. They voted to shut the government down. They failed the test. But the good news is they can get bailed out by the Senate. If they really want to solve these problems, if they really want to make sure our troops get paid, which, by the way, we voted for, they voted against, they can call their 2 Democrat senators who have 5 times voted to shut the government down and say, today's the day you can make amends. Today's the day you can open the government up. We only need 4 more votes. It's not a large number. 4 Democrat senators have come to their senses and said, yes, let's open up the government and not have this charade continue, but it takes 4 more because Chuck Schumer wants to have a tantrum. Let me tell you what another senator just said yesterday about why this shutdown is going on. He said, quote, it's a Democrat senator yesterday, the point of this shutdown is not just suffering for suffering's sake, but to make a point. So you even have Democrat senators admitting that they're imposing suffering on the American people, but they just want to make a point? My God, millions of lives are at stake. They know they're inflicting suffering on the American people so they can make some kind of point. If you want to have a tantrum, this is not the 3rd grade. This is the lives of American people. Real lives are at stake. Real careers and families. Will they be able to pay their house note come the 15th? That's at stake, the safety of our air traffic control system. So that some senator that wants to have a tantrum can make a point? I think the American people are getting sick of this charade that's going on. They know what the Democrats in the House did to shut the government down. But they also know that just 4 senators doing the right thing can turn this around and open the government back up again. And yes.
What's up, Sophie? How you doing? What's up, Chad? How y'all doing? We got 131 people in the building. Thank y'all for coming.
Committee, you can't have those negotiations while you're in a shutdown. And they know that. But they don't mind inflicting suffering on the American people because they want to make a point. I think the American people are going to start making points. People could pick up the phone and call their Democrat senator. We did a press call yesterday in the states of Georgia and Maryland, where all 4 senators there could literally end this today, but they've all been 5 times voting no on
What's up, Supreme Knockout?
the bill to get the government back open. It was ironic. The Maryland delegation of Democrats held a press conference just days ago talking about how bad a shutdown will be for the state of Maryland. And they're right. The irony is they're the ones who voted to shut it down. Over 150 employees in the state of Maryland alone will be hurt, and their own Democrat delegation is saying how bad it's going to be, yet they're the ones who voted to inflict that, quote, suffering on the people of Maryland. This madness can end. This madness needs to end with sanity finally emerging. Bring some common sense in. And Chuck Schumer, if you can't do the right thing because you're so afraid of your political job, think about the jobs of millions of families out there who don't want to have that suffering inflicted on them. And let 4 other of your Senate Democrat colleagues do the right thing for you. Let's end this. Our whip. Tom Emmer.
8 days. We are now 8 days into the Democrats' shutdown. 8 days that our troops are not getting paid. Border Patrol agents are going without mission-critical funding. Federal workers are being forced to figure out how they're going to put food on the table for their families. All because Democrats would rather hold the American people hostage to appease their radical base than to pass our clean, nonpartisan government funding bill. As of this morning, Senate Democrats have had 5 opportunities to get the government up and running again for the people they were elected to serve. And the vast majority of them have voted no every single time. Their obstruction is not only a slap in the face to hardworking Americans whose livelihoods are being put at risk due to the Democrats' shutdown, it's also a slap in the face to the constituents who fund their salaries with the expectation that they fulfill their basic constitutional responsibilities. In my hand, I have more than a dozen pages of organizations from across the country representing Americans from every end of the political spectrum, echoing the exact same message. And that message is that government shutdowns solves nothing and hurts everyone. So to our Democrat colleagues in the Senate, enough with the political grandstanding. Do the right and responsible thing by passing the House's clean CR immediately. Americans are already hurting. People's jobs are at stake. You can and must end the political games and reopen the government today. And with that, I turn it over to our conference chair, Lisa McClain.
Good morning, everybody. Again and again, Democrats have chosen to put illegal aliens over hardworking Americans. That is not my opinion. That is fact. Read the bill. Democrats let millions of illegals pour in across our border under Joe Biden. Democrats gave them driver's license. Democrats allowed them to cast ballots in elections. And now Democrats are fighting. They are fighting to give illegals health care on your dime. Democrats want to take money out of your pockets and give them to illegal aliens so they can get government benefits. These aren't my opinions. These are actual facts. Go to the website and read the facts, right? But what Democrats do when they have no plan, no vision, and no leader, they have to misrepresent the truth. And they do that over and over again, and they think you, the American people, aren't gonna notice. They're not gonna notice. You're not gonna notice that they're taking money out of your pockets and giving them to illegals. They're gonna try and put their spin on it. But I challenge you, go to the website and read it for yourself. When Democrats have the choice between standing up for American people or catering to the illegal aliens, what do? They choose illegals every single time and time again. And that's exactly what they're doing again in this government shutdown fight. Democrats are putting illegals above American citizens. So I ask the Democrats, how long will it take you to put Americans first in this funding fight? I ask our senators, Senator Peters and Slotkin, when are you gonna put the American people first? The people that elected you to represent them. How many times will you vote against our troops? I ask Senator Peters and Senator Slotkin, how many times are you gonna vote not to pay our troops? How many times will you vote against moms and babies who rely on WIC? Against flood insurance? How many times will you vote to put illegals first and Americans last? The answer to that question is as long as the radical base keeps calling the shots. My 2 senators are pandering to their radical base as well. Republicans, however, are actually putting Americans first every single day. And why? Because that's our job. That's our duty. And quite frankly, that is our responsibility. And I call on the Democrats, especially the two Democrats from my state, Senator Peters and Senator Slatkins, please put the American people who you represent first.
We'll take a few questions. Yes, ma'am.
Speaker Johnson, thank you. Do you agree that the mayor of Chicago and the governor of Illinois should be in prison?
Should they be in prison? Should the mayor of Chicago and the governor of Illinois be in prison? I'm not the attorney general. I'm the Speaker of the House, and I'm trying to manage the chaos here. I'm not following the day-to-day on that. I do know that they've resisted the introduction of, or the offering of National Guard troops in Chicago, which is a terribly dangerous city and has been destroyed in the process of being destroyed under liberal Democrat governance and their terrible policies. I would just cite for you in response Exhibit A, which is the District of Columbia. All of you were able to walk safely into the Capitol today, and you can park your cars blocks away and walk back to your cars, and you're not in fear of having your purse snatched or your car being jacked or being assaulted. And why is that? Because President Trump had enough of it. He's a strong leader in the Oval Office, and he used the resources that were available to him, the National Guard, to bring order to the chaos. The Democrat mayor of the District of Columbia ultimately said, thank you so much for the reinforcements, and you're all enjoying the spoils of good policy and a return to the rule of law. If we could do that in the other major cities in the country where they're having terrible crime crises, that should be seen as a positive, and I think most Americans see it that way. If you're a resident of Chicago or New Orleans or one of these other Democrat-run cities, you've had enough. You're tired of your family walking in fear and not being able to enjoy their lives, and if President Trump can use the resources and do it in a lawful manner to allow National Guard troops to help bring order and restore the rule of law, that is something that is wildly popular with the American people. Now, if you have elected officials in some of these states who are committed to their radical, soft-on-crime ideology and defunding the police and all the things the Democrat Party championed for the last several years, and they want to stand by that, we encourage them to do so. We'll see what the people think about it. Yes, sir. Back row.
Speaker Johnson, a lot of the free health care for illegal aliens that you've been talking about is care provided in emergency rooms, which are required by federal law to care for anybody, even if they can't pay, even if they're not a citizen. Do you think that that law should be changed?
No, you're talking about EMTALA, which has been part of the law for most of my life. Emergency care is provided without question to anyone who comes in. If you're hemorrhaging and you show up in an emergency room, you get treated. That's something we all support. That's a very good law. We're in favor of it. You're cherry picking a tiny subset of the issues. We put, and go to it's still on the website, speaker.gov, look at page 57, section 2141 of Chuck Schumer's counter-proposal CR that he filed. There's 6 categories of things that they would like to restore funding to, and it adds up to $192.8 billion, almost $200 billion of hardworking taxpayer funds that would go to support illegal aliens and other non-citizens. Now, with regard to EMTALA, are we saying change the law? No. But one of the things they're doing, and one of the things that Chuck Schumer is advocating for and has filed in the law and is using as a leverage point to keep the government shut down, is he literally wants to reimburse hospitals more money for treating illegal aliens than American citizens. Fact. Go look it up. Go look on the website. Don't take my word for it. We're not doing that. If you're a young, pregnant American citizen woman who shows up in an ER and you get treated and they pay the hospital less for treating you than some illegal rabble-rouser who came in from some South American country to do us harm, that is wrong. The Republican Party stands for common sense. In the big, beautiful bill, we fix that. And Chuck Schumer wants to unwind it, and it is unconscionable to me that he's inflicting all this pain on American citizens so they can play games and try to appease the radical left base. That's what this is. Back, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 2 questions about federal worker pay. One, is it your understanding that federal workers will be repaid after this shutdown as part of current law? And 2, would you allow a UC, for example, for the military to ensure that they would be paid in the shutdown?
Those are 2 questions. Federal workers, it's my understanding that the law is that they would be paid. There is some other legal analysis that's floating around. I have yet had time to dig into and read that. But it is always the case, that is tradition, and I think it is statutory law that federal employees be paid, and that's my position. I think they should be. They should not be subjected.
Y'all hear that, guys? Now it's a possibility that they don't get the back pay.
To harm and financial dire straits because Chuck Schumer wants to play political games. With regard to paying the troops, I want everybody to listen to me very carefully. Hakeem Jeffries and the House Democrats, as Leader Scalise said so well, are clamoring to get back here and have another vote because some of them want to get on record and say they're for paying the troops. We already had that vote. It's called the CR. Every Republican and at least one Democrat had the common sense to say, of course we want the government to stay in operation. Of course we want to pay our troops and our air traffic controllers and our Border Patrol agents, TSA, and everybody else. We did have that vote. The House, I keep saying the House did its job. We did that almost 3 weeks ago. And every Democrat in the House except one voted against it. They voted that they did not want the troops to be paid. They did not want TSA agents to be paid. They did not want air traffic controllers, Border Patrol agents, and all the rest. They live with that vote. They made that decision. The House is done. The ball is now in the Senate's court. It does us no good to be here dithering on show votes. We did it. We sent the product over. It is clean. It is 24 pages in length. It's the most bare minimum that's necessary to keep the lights on for the people. And Chuck Schumer and 43 of his colleagues, Democrats, continue to do the wrong thing. We're not having it. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Democrats continue to allege that the Republican-controlled Senate can change the rules to push through the shutdown impasse. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is also now saying the same. Is there any validity to this, and what sort of precedent would that set for a future Democrat-controlled Senate?
Well, I'd lead the House, but the Senate has its own rules. Some of them are arcane, and when you're in the minority, you don't like it a lot. The filibuster is a tradition over there that's been maintained by both parties whenever they've been in the majority for a long, long time, and they can make a very compelling case as to why that's true. Now, could you go nuclear and blow that all up and end the filibuster once and for all and allow everything for only majority party vote, 51 votes in the Senate? I mean, is it possible? Yes. Is it wise? You can have a lot of people who would tell you it's not. I mean, on the Republican side, I would be deeply concerned if the Democrats had a bare majority in the Senate right now. A Marxist ideology taking over the Democrat Party? Do I want them to have no safeguards and no stumbling blocks or hurdles at all in the way of turning us into a communist country? I don't think that's a great idea. That's me. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander, as they always say. And there are some safeguards in the process that were built in a long, long time ago to prevent one party just running roughshod. Now, there's a big contrast between what I just said and the issue that is before us today. We're not asking Chuck Schumer and the Democrats to do anything different than what they've always done. We've shown you the highlight reel. Chuck Schumer gave impassioned speeches as recently as 7 months ago in March of this year. He said, we have to keep the government open. It would be dangerous and harmful to the American people. He said after the vote, he went on CNN and said, I'm proud of that vote. I didn't like it, but we had to do that. He was right then. He is not right now. We're not asking the Democrats to do anything heroic. We're asking them to do their basic duty and responsibility, as Chairwoman McClain said. Keep the government open. The first responsibility, I'm sorry, I'm aggravated. The first responsibility of the government is to protect the people who are supposed to be protected are being completely cheated by Democrats in the Senate because they want to play politics. They hate Donald Trump. I mean, they have Trump derangement syndrome. It's very real. Listen to their own comments. And they have to show a fight at any cost. When does that cost become too high? In our view, it already has. They have another chance today to reopen the government, and we'll see if they do the right thing. I pray that they do, because real people are being affected by the...
Somebody must have told him something, y'all. Somebody must have told him something, chat, because Monday, remember Monday, guys, we were saying he was laughing up here. When he was talking about the shutdown, he was laughing. Now today, he's acting like he's aggravated. Y'all remember that, guys?
games here, and they're sick of it.
He was laughing and smiling while he was giving us an update about the shutdown. Now he's acting like he's mad.
Thanks so much.
What's up, chat? Yeah, that's it. He's acting like he's mad today. Let's look and see how many shutdowns we've had. Okay, as we look over here, appreciate y'all for joining. We got 585 people in the building. Let's see how many shutdowns America has actually been through. We had a shutdown in 1980. 1980, Jimmy Carter. That was the first government shutdown. The second, so we had about 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is like the 11th shutdown. We had one in 1980, in 1981, 84, and 86. Federal employees were furloughed due to both presidential terms of Ronald Reagan. So we had a shutdown during Ronald Reagan. We had another shutdown during George Bush. Then we had the Clinton shutdown. That shutdown was behind government spending. 2013, we had the shutdown over Obamacare, which was in 2013. Let's see if we can see how long these shutdowns. 16-day shutdown over Obamacare. Clinton shutdown. I don't want to read. I think this was a 21-day shutdown. January 2018. Donald Trump had a shutdown. So we had a 5-year gap on shutdowns. We do know Donald Trump had a 35-day shutdown. If we can remember, he had a chat. Donald Trump had a 35-day shutdown during his first administration, which is the longest shutdown. Let's see, Donald Trump had 2 shutdowns during his first presidency. Then it says that Biden had a shutdown for a couple of hours. And now this shutdown. Who believes this shutdown is going to last for more than 35 days, guys, to break the record? Because we already, if you didn't hear, I think that was yesterday. Yes, yesterday morning on the live yesterday, Donald Trump basically said that the shutdowns, this shutdown plays right into their hand of balancing the budget, AKA cutting government programs. Let's see, date 1980, 1 day. 1981, 1 day. 1984, 4 hours. 1986, 4 hours. 1990, 3 days. 1995, 5 days. And then another shutdown in 95 and 96, 95, and it lasted through 96, 21 days. 2013, 16 days. 2018, 3 days. And then the long one of Donald Trump from 2018 to the beginning of 2019, that shutdown lasted 35 days. Wow. Now this one, we in the 8th day of this shutdown. We in the 8th day. And me, if this is my opinion, chat, I think that this shutdown is going to last longer than 30 days. Who in the chat thinks that this shutdown is going to last longer than the 35 days of 2018? Who in the chat think that this shutdown is going to last longer than 35 days? Let's look into this one. 60 days easy. Null says 60 days. Wow. But see, remember, guys, remember, chat. Donald Trump said yesterday, 1 year. Oh, golly. Remember yesterday, Donald Trump said that a lot of these jobs are not coming back. Hey, what's up, Margaret? How you doing? Thank you for joining. Remember, guys, Donald Trump said yesterday that a lot of these jobs are gone forever, which is sad. I believe it's going to last until the new year, says Justice. Maurice, people are happy because it's starting the stimulus again. Wow, that's an interesting thought, Maurice. Trump, he'll cave when flights stop flying. We don't need those jobs to come back. Nothing is good with this. Nothing is good with this shutdown. What do you want about jobs? Why is it sad? Articulate your reasoning. Yes. It's sad because a lot of these jobs are not coming back. And it's sad because people are not getting paid. And he actually said that it might not be back pays. Because, you know, they were saying at first that the people will go get the money once they go back to work and this government shutdown is over. They was going to give them back pay. He said just now that it's a possibility that they will not get the back pay. A 40-day shutdown. Why would we want them back? $2K, good to know many of the jobs will be gone for good. Oh, man. Zombie, Trump is going to be like Kirk to start the Civil War. Well, I think, but see if those jobs don't come back, there's a lot of people that's going to be without work. Laughing out loud, no. Not passing 30 days for people in other countries. Sorry. These are government jobs. Job fair. We have full employment. Get a real job. Let's see. Trump is loving the shutdown. You're fired. Says Greeny Beanie. Sonny, we don't need these jobs. You can't even articulate why they were good jobs. When you guys can't travel around, those jobs don't come back. What then? Man. Let's see. We got 300 people in the building. Thank y'all for joining. Thank y'all for coming through and rocking with us. Thank y'all, chat. Thank y'all for coming through. Let's see what else is going on.
Mr. President.
Majority Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, following up with what the majority leader just said, I have here the Washington Post from this morning, and they have an editorial. And what they have in bold print, it says, Democratic leaders play a dangerous game. That's what the Democrats are doing. We just heard the majority leader talk about what we're trying to do, what we're facing, how Chuck Schumer is being held hostage by the liberal groups who set up the war room with him. And what we see is a dangerous game being played and threats to the American people. This goes on to say there is a clean funding bill on the table. This is the Washington Post, Mr. President, this morning.
Hold on, Chad. Give me a second. I'll be right back.
There is a clean funding bill on the table. Only a handful of Senate Democrats need to vote for it. Instead, the minority leader is leading the Democrat Party into a box canyon. Can't get out. And it's a dangerous game, and it's not just dangerous for them, it's dangerous for the American people. That's where the danger lies. So I come to the floor, Mr. President, because the American people are facing an immediate crisis. And they know why. Anybody watching knows why. It's because Senate Democrats have now voted 5 times against a clean, bipartisan, continuing resolution that would open the government today. This is day 8 of the Schumer shutdown. Day 8. Country is held hostage by the Democrats, and they're playing a dangerous game. This isn't a game, Mr. President, but that's what the Democrats have turned it into. So the question before us is simple. What have the Democrats accomplished during this dangerous game that they're playing? October 10th, on Friday, in 2 days, Border Patrol agents and other federal workers will receive only half a paycheck. That's the result of the Democrats' dangerous game. It'll be their last paycheck until and at least the Schumer shutdown ends. Democrats vote to reopen the government. They could do it today. House of Representatives passed a clean continuing resolution, current funding levels. Democrats voted 13 times under Joe Biden for a continuous resolution to keep the government funded. Continuing resolution funds our military, pays for law enforcement, continues food assistance for moms and young children, keeps small business loans flowing. 13 times they voted for this. Now they reject it because they want to please their radical extreme base, the base that has put up a war room that Chuck Schumer has bowed down to. That's what we've just heard from the majority leader, that they're the ones calling the shots. And that's why we find ourselves in this situation. Democrats are demanding radical new policies before they allow the government to reopen. I've seen their demand letter, $1.5 trillion in new expenses, as the majority leader just outlined here on the floor. Their ransom note is filled with liberal policies. I look at it, it is stitched together like Frankenstein's monster. $1.5 trillion in reckless new spending, free health care for non-citizens, free Medicaid for working-aged, able-bodied adults who refuse to work. There are over 5 million of these individuals in the United States, and yet they refuse to work. And the Democrats want them to all get free Medicaid. $50 billion the Democrats want to cut from vulnerable rural hospitals, hospitals in rural communities. Do the Democrats not care at all about those communities? Even though there are rural communities in their states, they are beholden to the big cities and the mayors, the sanctuary cities that control the Democrat Party. That's what we're dealing with here. That's why the Washington Post calls what the Democrats are doing, as I pick it up again, Mr. President, a dangerous game. They're holding the American people hostage to extract far left-wing concessions. They're telling our service members their paychecks are negotiable. They're telling small businesses their dreams are collateral damage in a partisan fight. They're telling mothers and young children that WIC benefits are leverage for the far left demands of health care for non-citizens. Republicans remain committed to ensuring families receive the support they deserve. The Democrats have chosen repeatedly to keep the government closed for political purposes only. American families are feeling the pain nationwide. In Georgia, more than 100,000 federal employees are wondering where they will find the money to pay their bills and buy their groceries. In Arizona, 344,000 children enrolled in SNAP face uncertainty. The benefits are running out. Time is of the essence. Shutdown Democrats are telling these families problems aren't urgent. Well, they're urgent to those families, and the Democrats don't seem to care. In New York, almost 500,000 individuals who rely on WIC will lose access at the end of this week. It's already Wednesday. We're talking about pregnant women. We're talking about new mothers. We're talking about young children. They depend on this program. In Illinois, every week the shutdown continues. It costs the state's economy over $500 million. That's jobs lost, paychecks missed, opportunities evaporated. In Michigan, small businesses face delays of $92 million in loans because the Small Business Administration is frozen due to the shutdown. These businesses are the backbones of our communities and our economy. They should be able to make payroll, keep their doors open, not as the Democrats continue to play what has been termed a dangerous game. In Nevada, for each month the shutdown continues, consumer spending from lost wages will fall by over $200 million. It's money that won't flow into local businesses, won't pay rent, won't put food on the table. In New Jersey, telehealth programs are on hold. I'm a doctor. Without these programs, patients could be put at greater risk. In New Hampshire, workers maintaining our nuclear attack submarines, they face furloughs and unpaid work. But this goes beyond missing a paycheck. This is about national security. The Schumer shutdown, the dangerous game that he is playing, puts America's safety at risk. At airports nationwide, we are already seeing the direct effects of the shutdown. Flights are being delayed, security lines are growing longer. Even the head of the Teamsters Union, Sean O'Brien, says that Democrats' political theater is something he can see right through. He says a shutdown will hurt working people, period. American workers are not a bargaining chip. That's the leader of the Teamsters Union, Mr. President. He goes on to say, senators should stop screwing around and pass the House-passed clean short-term funding bill. That's where we are today. He's right. But regrettably, Senate Democrats are treating the American people as bargaining chips, as hostages, and that's why they sent the list of demands as ransom. Democrats have now voted 5 times against opening the government, 5 times against supporting our military, 5 times against paying law enforcement officers, 5 times against food assistance for women and infants and children, 5 times against the small business loans that help Main Street. 5 times Democrats have looked at the mounting damage of the Schumer shutdown and shrugged their shoulders. That's the situation we have today. The American people overwhelmingly say Democrats should pass a clean continuing resolution and end the shutdown immediately. There is a clean bipartisan resolution before the Senate, ready for a vote right now. It reopens the government today. It would protect the paychecks and the programs the American people depend upon. It would end the uncertainty that is gripping millions of American families. The question is not whether the Democrats can end the shutdown. It's will they have the integrity to do it, or will they continue to play this dangerous game with our nation and with our families.
We are listening in here to the Senate floor as lawmakers are continuing to discuss the government shutdown. We do need to
for families is creating a hardship they never anticipated. We believe on the Democratic side, this is the time to act now, to move together to stop these increases from taking place, because these increases were part of the big, beautiful Republican budget. The Trump budget, voted for by every Republican senator and no Democratic senators. The Trump budget, which of course he signed into law, that's what's leading to these increases, because the plans, the Affordable Care Act insurance plans, are no longer going to enjoy a subsidy, a tax credit to help families pay the premiums, and that's why the cost is going to go up so dramatically. We can change it. We can do it, but we have to do it quickly. We ought to move on it this week. I wish the House of Representatives were in session. They haven't shown up for 2 weeks. Speaker Johnson happens to believe that being AWOL is the right thing for his Republican members. I don't think it's the right thing for America. Democrats and Republicans should be in this Capitol negotiating, sitting at a table together. And the first item on the agenda has to be health care costs for American families. All this talk about dangerous game and radical left policies and managements, it is not a radical left idea that a working family ought to have affordable health insurance. It is basic in America. As flawed as our health system is in this country, and as great as it is in many respects, if people cannot afford to have their coverage for their family, then hardship, it follows. That's the real reason. You say, well, what about the cost? Remember, this is an administration that wants to give $20 billion to Argentina. $20 billion this president's planning on giving. I'm worried more about 20 million Americans who will lose their health insurance if we don't do something and do it quickly. The American people get it. This issue has gone from the Beltway to the backyards of America. People know that this is coming, and they're worried about it, and they should be. They want us to do something, and they want it done now. And we are making the fight on this continuing resolution because it is timely, and we need bipartisan support to pass it. So let's do something positive in a bipartisan way. And dealing with the cost of health insurance is my approach that I would suggest. Let me take this to another issue that is near and dear to my heart, and that's what's happening in my home state of Illinois. We all know the popular quote, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Or in President Trump's case, if a person shows you who they are a million times over, believe them. President Trump has shown us his unlawful and inhumane priorities over and over again, city after city. He continues to deploy militarized immigration agents and National Guard troops to more American cities purely for political theater. He wants America to talk about the Texas National Guard in Illinois, not about health care costs facing American families. But it's not going to work. Unfortunately, the men and women of the Texas National Guard who are in the state of Illinois as of yesterday have been sent off on a political assignment, political theater. Instead of working to find a bipartisan way to reopen the government, lower the cost of health care, President Trump is focused on scoring points against his perceived enemies. Just yesterday, 200 or 300 members of the Texas National Guard joined federal law enforcement officers in Chicago, along with President Trump's loyal FBI Director, Kash Patel. The truth is that the arrival of the Texas National Guard and the FBI Director will not make Chicago safer. It will only escalate the unnecessary and dangerous situation this president himself has created. I still can't get the image out of my mind from 2 weeks ago when the ICE officials in full combat gear carrying long rifles were marching down Michigan Avenue. It was a hateful effort that is used to provoke people into strong emotional feelings. This administration's unlawful use of military resources to police American cities makes our country less safe, and it's a mistake that will be remembered in the history books. I pray that the court system will respond accordingly, as they did in the case of Oregon in Illinois when the hearing tomorrow is brought before the federal judge. Deploying the Texas National Guard without the consent of Illinois elected officials is, in my estimation, unnecessary and unlawful. The Posse Comitatus Act expressly forbids the use of our nation's military for civilian law enforcement unless expressly authorized by statute or the Constitution. National Guard personnel do not deserve to be used by the president's political pawns. And let me say and make it clear, as much as I regret the decision by the Texas governor to send his National Guard troops into Illinois, and as much as I want them to leave immediately, I do not make those statements at the expense of the individuals who are in the Guard and volunteered to serve their state and nation. The same thing is true with the federalized Illinois National Guard. They are doing what they are ordered to do as according to the military standards. But the bottom line is, we all know they are not fighting crime. If the Trump administration truly wants to help Chicago, and I don't believe they do, and Illinois, it won't defy our elected leaders. It will work with us. It would restore millions of dollars it suspended, the Trump administration suspended, in crime prevention and public safety grants. Instead, this administration has chosen to use America's military to create chaos and sow fear in our cities. We all agree on the importance of reducing crime and making our communities safer. The president claims his aggressive immigration raids and threats to deploy troops are to help get violent criminals off the streets. I come to the floor 2 straight days, and this is the third, to condemn what happened last week in the city of Chicago on Tuesday. A South Shore apartment building was raided in the middle of the night. Doors were crashed down. Families were rousted out of their bedrooms, many of them brought out to the street and questioned as to whether they were in America legally. Some were American citizens, we don't know how many, and we certainly don't know if there were any criminals found as a result of that. No report. But we do know this: what happened on that street on that night was not the way America does business and shouldn't be. It was to terrorize these families with no warrant for their arrest and no suspicion that they had committed crimes, simply because they looked Hispanic and maybe looked like foreigners, I'm not sure. This action was taken against them. These attacks are part of Stephen Miller's personal agenda for mass deportation at any cost. They've pulled FBI, DEA, and ATF agents from their assignments, important assignments to stop narcotics and other things, to carry out the president's immigration agenda. They've stopped working on fighting crimes like terrorism, gun violence, human trafficking, and drug smuggling, to land a helicopter near a building in Chicago and to bring 30 families out into the street in the middle of the night. I have fought for humane reforms to our immigration system and evidence-based ways to reduce crime in our cities. If the president is serious about fixing our immigration system or lowering crime in our communities, I'll join in on that effort. But sending in militarized federal immigration agents and National Guard troops to our communities is not the way to do it. These actions have accomplished what I believe is the president's true intention: sowing fear in the hearts of our communities, especially our immigrant communities, and consolidating the president's power in Washington. The actions taken by this administration undermine the very fabric of America, a nation that was founded on the belief that all people should be free from tyranny. I remember a time when every member of Congress would have risen in outrage if the administration attempted to use the military unlawfully against the cities and communities and states that they represent. Unfortunately, this time has passed. There's nothing but silence from the other side of the aisle. Congressional Republicans are content to stand aside in abject servility to this president as he tramples the Constitution. But Americans should not stay silent. People across Illinois are peacefully making their voices heard and letting this administration know the attacks on our city will not go unchallenged. As a senator from Illinois, I'll do everything in my power to hold this administration accountable for their unlawful actions. They may think this is a diversion of attention from the basic issue of controlling health care costs and helping working American families afford their health insurance. I think it's much more. It is a threat to our republic and our Constitution, and I hope that others will join me in condemning this activity. I yield the floor.
That was Senator Dick Durbin speaking there on the